Okay, so let's look at another post on Korea's Eternity microsite. So, character tone correction story. So, the character colors are subtly different from Mabinogi. I transferred the Mabinogi character shader to Unreal Engine as is, but the character colors are different. Even if you test it unlit, the tone is different. So this is all about like the different like color tones and the way like lighting works and stuff like that. Leon Engine versus Unreal Engine Unlit versus Unreal Engine Mabinogi specific shader. So differences between Leon and Unreal Engine. We looked at 4 of the factors that affect color above. How do the 2 engines provide functionality for each of these 4? Properties of a material such as its reflection, absorption of light are defined by the material or shader in the game engine. For reference, in Unreal Engine, a material that has no effect on light at all is called unlit. And in this case, it always appears as the set color regardless of light. Let's assume this makes no difference since they said they ported the shaders from Leon to Unreal as is. So the remaining elements are lighting that affects directly and indirectly, and the results output by the monitor and the gamma correction or tone correction processing for them. The Unreal Engine that Mabinogi will be ported to has a lighting system called Lumen. Calculates direct and indirect lighting that affects the scene in real time. So here's the comparison results. This is before Lumen and this is after. And you can see the difference, how like this one's darker a little bit and this one looks a little bit brighter. This is a feature that was not present in the older Leon engine. The difference in the lighting system may affect the color. Another difference is that Mabinogi uses gamma correction, while Unreal Engine provides a system called Tone Mapper, which supports gamma correction and other correction methods. Differences in tone correction are also a factor affecting color, so it is important to look at the differences. Differences in troubleshooting of tone correction by Tone Mapper. Unreal Engine supports Tone Mapper as a function called post-processing. Filter effects that we use in cameras can also be considered as this type of post-processing function. In post-process, I was computing color correction instead of gamma correction with a color grade texture like below. The engine default was to use color correction unconditionally, so I modified it so that only gamma correction is calculated without using color correction by adjusting the relevant parameter values. As a result, we were able to confirm that the character was output with the same color as Leon Engine when using the unlit shader. So color comparison after tone correction of Leon Engine versus Unreal Engine Unlit versus Unreal Engine Mabinogi specific shader. And here you can see blinded. So these are the examples. This one's the Pleon Engine one, this one's the Unreal Engine Unlit, and this one's the Unreal Engine Mabinogi specific shader, it looks like. When you match the tone to the character, the background tone changes. So left when the tone is matched to the background, right when the tone is matched to the character. So here you can see the two examples, and you can sort of tell that the tone is a little bit different. If we could distinguish between characters and non-characters at the tone mapper stage that handles tone correction, wouldn't it be possible to make an exception so that only characters are not color corrected? So character outlines. Character mask information recorded separately when drawing the character outline. And here you can see an example right here. With this character identification mask information, we were able to add the ability to adjust bloom separately for each character, as well as tone map correction. Control character specific tone map parameters. So from left to right we can see this image of Dilly's and how it changes with each tone being adjusted. And then down here we have character specific bloom parameter control, lighting calculation differences, and troubleshooting. Based on the results so far, we have confirmed that when created with the unlit shading model, it appears to have the same color as Pleon. Color comparison after tone correction of Pleon Engine versus Unreal Engine Unlit versus Unreal Engine Mabinogi specific shader. So from left to right we can see blinded again here. However, the character on the right that uses the Mabinogi specific shader still appears with different colors. So yeah, this one doesn't look quite right. It doesn't look like blended. Why can't we just use unlit? You might think like this. Unlit is a shader that is literally unaffected by lighting. So whether or not the character goes under the shadow of the tree, the fake lighting above will always be visible. Yeah, I can see how that could be a problem. So there was a need to normalize the Mabinogi specific shaders to fit Unreal Engine. The goal is to have Mabinogi specific shader like Unlit express the same colors as Pleon, while also reflecting lighting and shadows. First of all, why does it look so dark? So, shadow map comparison. After looking into it, I found out that characters using Mabinogi specific shaders always appear dark because the shaders are implemented to cast shadows. I tried modifying it so that shadows are not always cast, but only when shadows are needed. And you can see the examples of that, here and here. Although it is brighter than the shadow area, the feeling of the area where light is calculated is more realistic than toon-like. Perhaps this is why shadows are always drawn when imported into Unreal Engine. In order to maintain the feeling of toon shading, I recorded the character's shadow color separately, and since it would be a waste to play with buffers not used in toon shading, I changed them to record lighting color and reflected shading results. Before editing, only lighting colors exist versus after editing, separate the shadow color and lighting color, then synthesize in tune style according to the shade. Shadows and basic lighting calculations are now guaranteed to be computed the same way as in Pleon engine. And here you can see like a character running, and how her shadow vanishes when she runs under the tree, but when she runs out from under the tree, you can see her shadow. So this just gives you an example. Next, when using the Mabinogi specific shader in the Lumen indirect lighting environment provided by Unreal Engine, we confirmed that the indirect lighting calculation results were too excessive and the character colors did not appear properly. So high versus low lumen influence on characters. And they have some examples here. This has been addressed by providing the ability to control lumen influence separately when using Mabinogi specific character shaders. Controlling character specific lumen parameters. So you can see how like the lighting is changing in this picture. And like the hair color and everything like that as they like adjust the settings for that. In this way, we have provided the ability to control background lighting and character lighting separately by providing character-only skylight influence parameters, point light character influence parameters, etc. Whether or not you're using lumens in this way. You can now set character-specific lighting separately from background lighting settings, allowing you to control the character's color tone without it looking too different from the background lighting. In conclusion, so far we have looked at the process of identifying and resolving the cause of the difference in character colors between Pleon and Unreal Engine. And I'm not sure when this post will be coming to the NA Eternity site. We do have 3 more posts coming to the NA Eternity site, one on July 17th, one on July 24th, and one on July 31st, but doesn't say which ones are actually going to be posted here. So at some point this post will also be put on the NA Eternity site if you want to check it out. But if you want to read about it now, like I just did, you can go to the Korean website and click on their Eternity site button, and it'll take you here. You can use Google Chrome to translate all this, and it's right down here. Character tone correction story. All the posts about Eternity happen on the Korean Eternity site first, so if you want to read it right away, this is the place you should go. But it should be on the NA site by the end of July anyway. So let's look at another one of the new posts in the Mabinogi Korean Eternity section that just recently came out. I want to go straight to Dumbarton's school. So what do you think of the new Dumbarton that was briefly shown at the showcase? As it was a town that I visited often, I think the Militians were also impressed by it, as it had many areas that needed improvement. Starting from the continent of Ulad, there are regions that can be visited at all times, such as the continent of Idia and Belvast, as well as regions that can only be visited during certain events. and then special regions that don't belong to any continent, like Avon. And this area is like at the end of Saga 2. In addition to areas that you, the Militians, can easily access on a regular basis, there are many areas internally. For example, there are areas that are only necessary for special situations such as missions or cutscenes. There are also areas that cannot be entered on a regular basis and can only be entered when carrying out a special quest, such as the mainstream. Due to various limitations in the existing Pleon engine, there were cases where similar looking areas were composed of multiple areas. There were also quite a few one-time event-only areas that were no longer used. Therefore, in the process of porting to Unreal, we had to decide which areas were essential and which areas should be improved first. Dunbarton, a representative village where many Militians come and go. The development room also poured out various ideas to improve Dunbarton to make it richer and more convenient. We were able to reorganize various elements, starting with the previously considered inconvenient paths. After several discussions with the planning and art workers, we established the following major criteria. So yeah, they really improved Dumbarton, and you can see that in the showcase. Dumbarton has many convenient facilities centered around the town square, but there are some areas that are inconvenient, such as having to go around in a circle. So like the Dumbarton Magic School at the moment, you have to like go far to the left and go up some steps and enter, or far to the right and go up some steps and enter right now, and there's this big ugly wall right here. Well, that's going to be going away, and so is that little wall right there, right in front of the doors to the magic school. And this is what's going to look like in Unreal. So some of those training dummies are gone. There's a big staircase here. So now you can just walk right up. And then the little barrier in the center of that entrance is now gone, so you can just walk right into the magic school. I think this looks really good. This is a really good update. And then the town office is also going to be improved a lot, so they're going to... Right now, these two boards are like kind of in the center, and there's like a staircase on the left and right side for accessing the town office. But now it looks like they're going to take out those two staircases, move those two boards all the way to the left here, and they're going to just put one big old staircase in the center, so that's great. I checked the traces of all NPCs that were standing in Dumbarton one by one and readjusted the place elements. I will leave it to your imagination to see how many NPCs were stationed in Dumbarton even for a moment. When I checked the location information, it would be difficult to plant a new tree or something in the place where our precious planet is standing. We also paid a lot of attention to areas that could further highlight the symbols or landmarks of Dumbarton Village. So here's the unicorn statue area. And here you can see Town Square. It's a little bit easier to see than it was in the showcase. But they have the symbol of Dumbarton in the center of Town Square now, right here. That's really cool. I think that's a nice touch. As you trade, you can see that the symbol of Dunbarton is a unicorn through the icon. The location of the unicorn square, where enchantments were entrusted long ago and concerts were held, has been moved to the center, and the stone statue has been upgraded. Okay, so this is gonna be like a different statue then. The central square where everyone gathers has also been beautifully engraved with the unicorn symbol, which again you can see right here. That looks very nice. The buildings that play important roles, such as the bell tower and the government office, have also been rebuilt larger and more splendidly. The small garden and trees in front of the cathedral have also been arranged more beautifully. It would be even more enjoyable to gather with the guild members at this place overlooking the town square below. So yeah, this area looks very nice. In addition to this, the decorations on the stalls of shops placed in the town, the fountains, the vines growing on the buildings, the flowers blooming under walls, even the smallest details were decorated to create a lovely, beautiful Dumbarton. So yeah, these are the changes to Dumbarton in Unreal, and personally I think they did a very good job. This looks very good. It still looks like Dumbarton, and it not only looks better, it is better. They actually fixed some of the flaws with it without drastically changing the way Dumbarton is. So that's very good. Okay, so we'll be looking at another post in the Eternity section on the Korean site called Materials That Exist in Erin. So just like the real world we live in, there are objects and materials with various textures in Erin. Among the various technical supports we are carrying out in this article, I will talk about how materials implemented in the Pleon engine are being refined in the Unreal Engine environment. So entering. As mentioned above, Erin has various textures such as skin, fur, fabric, stone, metal, and fluid. So things in development. It can be broadly divided into materials used for the environment and materials used for characters. Let's first look at materials used for the environment. So, vegetation. There is more to consider with plants than you might think. The color of the leaves and stems, and the degree to which they change depending on the surrounding environment. Shaking handling for physical collisions and optimization using various techniques depending on density all need to be sufficiently prepared in advance. Since Pleon Engine does not support parallel processing, there were limitations in vividly rendering vegetation, but Unreal Engine can utilize technologies such as multi-threading and object instancing, so it is possible to create vivid vegetation communities to draw Erin more richly. So here you can see like some of the examples. So fluid. Fluid substances like water also have various states depending on the environment. These calculations were also not easy in the past specifications, so there was a limit to expressing them using texture animation or sprite sequence. Eternity plans to actively improve these areas. Personally, I am really serious about expressing water more beautifully. So yeah, water is gonna get a lot better. And you can see some pictures of it down here. Translucent object. The Eternities project uses Unreal Engine's deferred rendering method to draw the screen. Deferred rendering allows for high quality results using various techniques. But drawing translucent or clear objects is still difficult to implement. Of course, in Pleon Engine, it was almost impossible to even try to give texture to translucent objects, but in Eternity, our TAs are struggling today to create translucent texture that suits Mabinogi by mixing real-world reflection characteristics with NPR expressions. So here you can see some translucent bubbles here by the Dumbarton Bank. So dying. In Pleon Engine we used a unique parameter called illumination color that only exists in 3D's Max, a 3D authoring tool for dyeing things. Since this can no longer be used in Unreal Engine due to changes in the 3D file format, we implemented the dyeing function without significantly changing the existing character creation pipeline through a roundabout method using several techniques. So here you can see like a picture of some wings, and these are like ribbon wings. And here we have a fox, so hair. And they're using a fox as an example for that. There are many ways to express fur, but we wanted to draw it only with materials while minimizing modifications to the existing model. In the current Mabinogi, fur is expressed with textures carefully created by artists, but it is not enough to convey the sense of volume. So we are currently developing so that various fur textures can be expressed. Ultimately, we want to give Pan abundant and realistic clothes. And here you can see like what the fox looks like with more realistic fur in the game. So in conclusion, I briefly introduced the main materials under development. I am trying to show you a more wonderful version of Aaron in your imagination. So yeah, this was pretty good. It's interesting to see like how they're redoing like all the textures for like plants and characters and clothing and stuff like that, because and water, because like it is a lot of work. So let's look at another post in the Korean Eternity section. So in search of our ancestors' legacy. For those of you who are waiting for Unreal development, I would like to briefly explain how the Eternity project is progressing from the concept stage. The Eternity project is not a project to create something completely new. That's good. This is a large-scale update project that maintains the memories that Militians remember while improving quality. Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind. A lot of players have been in Mabinogi a long time, and they don't want something completely new. They want a lot of things to stay the same, but improve. So how can we renew the existing things without damaging the emotions remembered by Militians? The first step in that process is to figure out what the current creation was made for. So this is the Fountain of Dumbarton, which every Militian has seen at least once. 20 years ago, what was the intention of our ancestors, written as ancestors and read as previous developers when they developed this fountain? So here you can see 3 images of the fountain. One big one here, and 2 smaller images here. What kind of shape were you trying to express? What is the hole behind it? The answer was found in my ancestor's original painting from 20 years ago. So here's the concept art for it 20 years ago. Also, judging from the religious symbol behind the fountain, the hairstyle, and the shape of the chair, I thought the person sitting was Limerak. That's why I worked in this direction, hoping to create a feeling of compassion. So the statue for the fountain is supposed to be the same as what you see on the stained glass church window. The picture below is the result of my efforts to breathe life into the scenery of Dumbarton while keeping the concept intention of that time alive. So yeah, this looks pretty good for the new fountain in Unreal. And this is the fountain at night when it's darker out. So to create a mood where you can feel the benevolence of Limerak, we place candles to add to the atmosphere of this fountain so that it can be enjoyed at night. So next we're going to look at the magic school. I wonder what the intention was behind those 3 long poles hanging from the roof. Did they want to hang a flag? This also allows us to read the direction of the concept from 20 years ago. So I think this drawing here is what Dumbarton used to look like 20 years ago, like a long time ago. I know that Dumbarton got like a update at some point over the years, so that's why this like structure is here. They removed that when they updated it, I think. The initial concept was to include a flag, but it seems to have been removed for some reason. If the flag couldn't be added due to a specification limitation that prevented it from moving, I wanted to include it, and the original drawing below is what I intended to do. So here's a drawing of what the new magic school will look like. And it looks really good. It was a good idea to add a staircase here. And here you can see a flag in the center and 2 weather vanes on the left and right side. Of course, we don't just make it as is. Here's the current idea. Instead of going with 3 flags, I've mixed in a weather vane to add some fun. We also added a school bell that wasn't there before, so there's a new bell on the side. In order to resolve the inconveniences that existed while using this school, we have also improved the route to make moving around more convenient. In this way, we are trying to create things now, 20 years later, that we could not create back then. Then what about the character? It's not just the background that tries to preserve the original sensibility. Let's take the monster imp as an example. Both the left and the right are imps, since they are the same species should their appearances match to some extent. So this is like a commerce imp, and this is like just a normal imp enemy. The imp on the right came out later, so it has fewer sharp edges and looks more complete. Also, in terms of cuteness, the one on the right is cuter. Since both are the same race called imps, it would be right to renew them so that they look similar. But is it really right to break the image that the character imp has? If you think about the symbolism of the character imp that the Militian remembers, it would not be right to renew this guy in a cute way. So this is what the imps are going to look like in Unreal. So the image of the existing imp has been maintained, but the form has been renewed with better quality. So yeah, it still looks like the same imp from the current game, just still a little creepy though. So here you can see the comparison, existing imp on the left, and the imp renewed in Unreal on the right. Preserving the Aran scenery that Militians loved while also adding new things to make the scenery in their memories beautiful. This is how the development of Eternity's project is progressing. So yeah, I think they have the right idea. Keep the game the same, but renew it and make it look better. Because there are a lot of players that have been playing this game for 10, 15, 20 years, and we don't want a completely new game. We want to keep the game looking the same, but better. So they definitely have the right idea. For a peaceful night in Militia, so we will be looking at another one of the Korean Eternity posts, and this one's about the new BGMs for the game, the new background music. So this time I would like to talk about the background music that was introduced at the 20th Anniversary Winter Showcase. They played the new themes for Dumbarton. First of all, please read while listening to the new BGM of Dumbarton that was first released. So they have a new BGM for Dumbarton during the day, and a new theme for Dumbarton at night. And they also added the new songs for Turconale during the daytime and during the nighttime, and for Tailton during day and night. But since they ask us to listen to the new BGM while we read about it, let's listen to the new Dumbarton theme during the day. So Mabinogi provides a wide variety of sound sources, starting from the village where you first step into a new world. Many NPCs you encounter in Aran also have their own theme songs. I think every Militian has a BGM that they cherish and love the most in their hearts. As the service has continued for over 20 years, BGM has also been gradually accumulated. In the process, some sound sources have been rearranged into an orchestra, and title songs such as Old Legends Told by My Grandmother When I Was Young have been consistently rearranged into various versions. Militians who have consistently enjoyed Mabinogi will know well that they can simultaneously appreciate the history of changes from MIDI sound sources that bring back old memories to recently applied real sound sources or orchestral versions. However, I started to wonder if it would really give that kind of impression to those who are new to Mabinogi. When I do mainstream, I often go back and forth between different regions. Since the BGMs that change as I move between regions are all produced at different times, I always felt that I could clearly feel the traces of time, and this always bothered me. In addition, since we are now moving to Unreal Engine, I also thought about whether there were areas where we could enhance the emotional experience. The exciting and lively town BGM, which is Dumbarton's, is good, but what if we maintained a slightly calmer and more lyrical atmosphere when night falls? I also thought about this, and I wanted to include a feature in Mabinogi where the sky gradually turns purple and the BGM naturally transitions and becomes calm at the same time. After several internal discussions, we first decided on a direction for producing the night version. While maintaining the original sensibility, we decided to focus on conveying the unique atmosphere of night above all else. If necessary, we included options such as slightly slowing down the tempo compared to the original song used for the day version, changing some of the instruments that give off a lively feeling or lowering the key. And it looks like we got through Dumbarton's day theme. Let's check out the night one too. I thought that the night version should be somewhat in line with the original song that will be used as the day version to create more synergy in order to smoothly change from day to night while maintaining the concept and atmosphere of the original sound source. We internally agreed that it would be good to consider refining both day and night. In other words, the original song needs to be revised or improved. Unlike the newly produced night version, the day version needed to be approached much more cautiously because there is an area of familiarity attached. In order to transplant the unique emotion conveyed by the original song as best as possible, we collaborated with our in-house sound team Neckward and explained what emotions were mainly conveyed in the existing BGM and what kind of atmosphere, concept, and characteristics the region themed on this sound source had. After receiving a lot of feedback and discussions over a really long period of time, improvements to the day and night version are also in progress. We also paid attention to properly adjusting the balance and harmony between the songs while improving them simultaneously, such as making sure that the types of instruments used do not harm the concept of the town. In addition to the feature that naturally transitions BGM as time passes from day to night, we are currently reviewing other elements that can convey the unique sentiment that can only be felt in Mabinogi. So yeah, I think they did a really good job with all 6 of these tracks that are up here. So go ahead and listen to all of them, they're really good. And you can even download them if you want to. So we'll be looking at another Eternity post on the Eternity section on the Mabinogi Korean site. So teacher, I have cool skin tone. So this post is about like skin tones and like how they work in Pleon Engine and like how they are going to be reworked into Unreal. So why do the colors I see on the color chip look different from the colors applied to the actual character? I chose the same skin color, but why do humans, elves, and giants appear as different colors? It was such a shame that we couldn't express various skin tones. So why are the actual application colors different? This phenomenon is due to Mabinogi's existing character creation method. In Mabinogi, the character's skin color was implemented based on fixed color values. This method made the colors look different even when the same color was applied because each race had different color values. In Pleon, this color value was fixed, so it was an area that could not be modified. Because fixed color values had the advantage of making the colors richer until recently, skin tones in Unreal were being developed similar to those in Pleon. It's Unreal, so this shouldn't be a limitation. We decided to find another way to improve. It was always a shame that I couldn't apply the desired skin color to the character. To address this limitation, a complete overhaul of the manufacturing method was required. Delete the fixed values specified in the modeling itself. We've made changes to the texture creation method based on gray so that colors can be accurately applied to the skin based on color values. So here you can see an example. Changed the skin color that had a fixed value to gray. There's nothing wrong with the image. And this is a comparison image of Pleon and Unreal with the same skin color applied after modifying the production method. As you can see, Unreal focuses on creating an environment where it is easy to express a variety of personalities by implementing skin color as is. In the future, you will be able to have fun finding a personal color that matches your character's color preference, and making your personality and charm stand out even more. We will continue to work to create a more immersive and enjoyable environment in the future. So yeah, this was a interesting post that explains how the skin colors currently work in Pleon Engine, and what needs to be done to make them work better in Unreal Engine. New facial! So we'll be looking at another post on the Korean Eternity section about faces in Mabinogi, and how they're going to be reworked in Unreal Engine. So, Eternity supports 3-dimensional facial expressions. In this post, I'd like to take time to explain the new facial appearance of Eternity. So, currently in Mabinogi, all eyes and mouths are implemented by rendering textures, 2D pictures, onto the face mesh 3D model. To put it simply, blinking eyes, beauty coupons, smiling faces, and crying faces are all implemented by replacing the textures that are rendered at the time. Okay, so this is showing how like the eyes and the face work. So you can see like the examples here and here, and this is like how blinking works. But it's already been 20 years since Militians have lived in Erin. In the meantime, the world has developed rapidly, and the appearances of characters in games have become more standardized day by day. These days, games implement beautiful appearances with mesh molding rather than textures. Since textures are only 2D images, it is difficult to express 3-dimensionality or natural movements. Despite the painstaking efforts and research into extreme expressions possible with textures, there are fundamental limits to the range of expressions possible with textures. However, the data accumulated over decades of service and technical limitations of the old engine were holding us back, and it was difficult to proceed while modifying the structure of the game that was already in the midst of a fierce live service. But we are working on replacing it with Unreal Engine. If that's the case, wouldn't Mabinogi also be able to have characters with beautiful appearances like in modern games? Since we're making a new one anyway. But there are some things to consider first. So first, there is a cartoon-like emotional expression unique to Mabinogi that is only possible with textures. This kind of expression is hard to make with mesh, and even if you do, it doesn't have the unique feel of a texture. I mentioned earlier that it's hard to bring out a sense of three-dimensionality with texture, but in this case it's more natural expression to remove the sense of three-dimensionality. If you look closely at the first expression in particular, the mouth is sticking out of the face, which you can see here, which is a very ambiguous part to make with mesh. Also, these cartoonish expressions are a unique sensibility of Mabinogi. And second, if you decide to express all the existing texture eyes with meshes, you can't help but think about the fate of the hundreds of existing texture eyes. Since it's a game that's been in service for a long time, there are cases where the resolution of old resources is low, causing a jagged staircase phenomenon in the eyebrows. Then there may be an option to upscale old texture resources, in which case there may be a slight change in impression. From the developer's point of view, the intention was to provide a clearer appearance by cleaning up with the lines and increasing the resolution, but the change in impression felt by the Militians was much greater than we expected. Therefore, even simple upscaling is an area that must be approached carefully. After much internal thought and discussion, we decided to remake all texture eyes in mesh form, except for the expression textures that appear briefly. We will do our best to minimize the difference in impression that will occur during this process. Because of the issues mentioned above, we couldn't completely abandon the eyes or mouths expressed with texture. We sought a way to express both. First of all, since the basic eye expression has changed from texture to mesh, the method of simply replacing the stickers to be attached to the mesh as shown above cannot be used. Instead, the mesh itself for the eye area needs to be replaced. To do this, Eternity had to separate the face part into eye, mouth, face, shape sections. So here you can see the three different sections. There's the face, and then there's the eyes, and then there's the mouth. In the future, instead of just replacing the stickers that go on the eyes or mouth area, you'll be replacing the eyes or chin itself. To continue with the following explanation, we first need to know about morphing. It's similar in 3D. It's a smooth connection between mesh in state A to mesh in state B. Morphing allows you to create a variety of expressions from a single eye-mouth mesh. For completely different shaped eyes, such as Beauty Coupon, you must replace the mesh itself. So how do we express both mesh eyes and texture eyes through this morphing thing? From now on, Eternity's characters are Transformers. The purpose of this unidentified mask is as follows. So when making an expression that can only be expressed with this type of texture, the mask moves forward in front of the eyes through morphing, attaching texture to the advanced mask. When it returns to the default expression after a certain amount of time has passed, back again through morphing behind the eyes. This process allowed us to express both texture and mesh expressions as needed. And you can see how like the texture expression like pushes out and moves, it covers the eyes. So that's how that works. But in the actual game, it's processed in a split second, so you don't notice these processes. But like, this is what's really going on. That's cool. The mouth is processed in the same way as the eyes. So far, we have introduced you to Eternity's new facial system. How do you like it? I am already excited to walk around in Erin with my new look. I hope you Militians like it too. So yeah, this was a very interesting read about like how faces currently work in Leon Engine and how they're going to work in Unreal Engine. Alright, let's look at another post in the Korean Eternity section. So, Mabinogi H-line skirt production. In this article, I will introduce the process of making a slim skirt, a type of skirt that is not commonly used in games. In the last post, the fact is that the Popo skirt is, that's covered in one of the other Eternity posts. We covered the process of combining key animation, physics, and retargeting to create a flowing skirt and hair. However, in Mabinogi, there are various costumes that are difficult to solve with this method alone. This time in particular, we'll talk about the process of expressing clothing such as the slim skirt that fits the legs perfectly. A short, slim skirt, usually above the knees, is often worn with skinning on the legs. What is skinning? It is a process of applying weights to the surface mesh of a 3D model so that it can move along with the bone that moves along the character. I think the stewardess costume would be the equivalent of the slim skirt example given above. You can see that there are no major problems even if you walk or sit down. So here you can see the stewardess costume. And there's the character like sitting. And there's the character moving. And you can see how like the skirt is moving with the character. So yeah, that looks really good. Among the slim skirts, the slim skirt that goes down to below the knees is not often used in character settings based on this book. An example would be the Eleanor new look dress. I think the developers put a lot of thought into presenting as many different chairs as possible. It couldn't be helped. I created a skirt pattern using the method used in the Popo skirt is actually post, and then proceeded with skinning it. The skirt's natural form, which is attractive for its fitted feel on the legs, was not preserved, and instead it ended up looking too eerie, which was not what was intended. So here you can see what it looks like. This time I tried skinning the legs like I did for the stewardess costume. And here you can see what it looks like in this example. It kind of looks like the legs are kind of clipping through in the back, maybe? I don't know. And maybe in the front, like kind of near the knees. When standing still, the fit is maintained, but when moving, the skin on the knees and thighs is exposed through the clothing. So yeah, I was right. So if you look at it, you can see like the skin coming through on the knees and like the back of their legs. It's like clipping through. That's bad. A sense of form, natural movement, unable to give up either one, I began to wonder if there was a way to express the advantages of both methods. Is there any way to maintain a fitted shape but prevent skin from poking through the knees and thighs? I installed an additional piece to assist with rotation according to the movement of the leg. Yeah, you don't want clipping through the actual skirt or clothing because that just doesn't look good. However, I was not able to get satisfactory results because the texture between the legs was excessively stretched. Splitting the skirt mesh did not stop the map from growing. So you can see how like it's too stretched out, like right here. To compensate for the excessive stretching of the texture, I set up an additional bone that only follows 70% of the leg movement when the leg moves along a certain axis. But it's not easy, problems still occur. Like you can see in this, that still looks a little stretched out down here, it doesn't look good. Though it responded to the rotation of the body, it did not respond to the change in length, so the shape of the skirt became even more strange. There were more problems than I can list in the text. We added nodes that respond to changes in the length of the main body and control the length of the auxiliary body, and we did some additional work on some parts and tested them. So you can see like a picture here where like the skin of the knee and part of the leg is like coming through the skirt, and here it's not. In the test environment, it seems to have been somewhat resolved. So this looks a little bit better in this example. It's not perfect, but it's better. How would this be applied in the in-game environment? Here's another example. Yeah, this looks a lot better. Although it's not as perfect as in reality, you can see that the shape of the skirt is maintained and the texture is greatly improved in stretching areas. The part where the skin was poking out also disappeared completely. So yeah, it doesn't look perfect, but it is a massive improvement over the other results. Let's compare the images when skinning was done only on the legs without additional bone settings, and when skinning was done after the additional bone settings. So this is what it looked like before, this is what it looked like after. Before, after. Yeah, you can see that this looks a lot better. Looking at the before and after images, it seems to have improved a lot. Of course, due to the nature of the game, there may still be some imperfect parts. But moving away from expressions like steel hair or steel skirts, we are constantly working to ensure that you, the Militians, can enjoy the show as beautifully as possible. So yeah, I think they're working really hard on this. Alright, let's look at another post in the Korean Eternity section of Mabinogi. So, high heel straps are not even. As you all know, there is a very strange phenomenon in Eren. It is a phenomenon where you are clearly wearing stockings, but when you change your shoes, they change into leggings. So here's the example. However, there are shoes that do not exhibit this strange phenomenon. So it only happens with like certain pairs of shoes, like with the bunny slippers, it's not happening, and then like with these shoes, it is. To explain this, let's take a quick detour and look at body structure of Militians. The body of Militian includes the feet. Because the basic foot shape was made flat, it was impossible to express a pointed toe like when wearing high heels. We have successfully implemented the method of hiding the base foot and attaching the high heels to the body. However, because the basic feet are artificially hidden, development proceeds with two problems. So 1, due to the absence of a basic foot, the shoe itself had to be designed to have a foot designed so that the instep is not visible. And 2, because the ankle connecting the leg and shoe was not smooth, the design of the ankle strap had to be included. Since the base foot was removed, it was impossible to wear high heels on bare feet. But this was solved by adding instep skin to the shoes. So that's how the strange phenomenon mentioned earlier occurred. What it looks like when you wear high heels that reveal the instep. From the development team's perspective, it was a bit awkward for the stockings to disappear when the instep was exposed. But in order to solve this, depending on the type of item, a new system had to be built to allow for separate shader code to be executed. When rendering the instep skin of the shoe, we also needed the ability to reference the foot texture on the outfit. It was impossible to solve these problems in Leon Engine, which has a lot of legacy code woven into it. However, Eternity's Unreal Engine supports all the features mentioned above. Design constraints 1 and 2 have been removed. The screenshot below is the result of testing the Love Island decoration shoes by making them in the Eternity high heel modeling method. You can see that the stockings and shoes are worn together, but they are still connected at the ankle without any break. So when wearing Love Island decoration shoes with Love Island decoration wear and street magician outfit and stockings. So here you can see that the problem isn't happening anymore. The new high heels from Eternity will be more attractive and natural as shown in the example above. So yeah, it's nice they're fixing little outfit glitches like this. Should give a lot more fashion choices when we move to Eternity. Alright, let's look at another post in the Korean Eternity section. So this one's walking into Unreal, Tara's construction. In the early stages of the move, we prioritized concerns like how can we implement the unique sensibility of Mabinogi in Unreal Engine. Just when we thought we could catch our breath after achieving small but meaningful results, we were immediately faced with the mission to rebuild a massive amount of buildings that had been produced over 20 years ago. Really, we got stuck in a swamp of production that seemed to have no end. The workload was overwhelming, but because each building had its own unique theme and identity, we had no choice but to personally create each one with great care. So here we can see some of the buildings in Dumbarton. There were buildings with elaborate patterns all over the city, and the problem was that there was really a lot of them. So modularize it. So that's how the modularization process started. Fortunately, Tara was a city with standardized designs, so it was possible to plan the separation and reorganization of buildings. Thanks to this, we were able to plan an efficient work process, and the background team was able to get one step closer to completing the reconstruction mission. What is modularization? Modularization is a game production method that divides various elements that make up a 3D environment into small reusable units, or modules, and combines these into various configurations to create environments or structures. Each module has a basic structure, and by placing or combining several of them, it is possible to create complex backgrounds. For example, by combining several types of wall sets and columns and stairs to fill in the gaps, you can create several buildings of various sizes. So this shows you like an example of what you can combine and how it can like make a building. So that looks really good. So I tried to generate an example of modularization using AI. It's similar but not exact. So yeah, it looks good, but it's not exactly like it should be for Mabinogi. So first gather buildings with the same theme, then figure out what can be used repeatedly for each building with that theme, and consider width, height, depth, design, features, etc. to plan how to divide them. Then start with a large classification and narrow it down to details. Then reverse assemble them to check if there are any things you missed during the division. It may look like it will be easy when you see the image, but since Mabinogi was not designed to be modular from the beginning, it is actually much more difficult than you might think. It seems complicated. Is there a reason for modularizing it to this extent? The first is efficiency. Since you can combine multiple modules to create various shapes, you can produce a variety of products while reducing repetitive work. You only need to work on one set of modules, and you can create multiple building combinations with it. The second is flexibility in design changes. Modification of one module automatically reflects everywhere that the module is used, so design changes can be applied in batches. In addition, the modular system is advantageous in applying various concept styles. For example, applying different concepts and colors to the same wall module can produce results with different moods. The third one helps with optimization. Many objects affect performance when rendered. Using modular backgrounds reduces redundant data and allows you to load and render some of them as needed, which helps optimize performance. You can improve performance by loading only modules needed in certain areas to minimize memory usage and dynamically loading modules according to the camera's view. And the fourth is reusability. Modular parts can be reused in completely different environments, allowing content creation while maintaining a consistent identity. The same modular structure of windows, doors, and building walls used in Tara can be applied to other towns in the future. Even if it cannot be used in the towns currently produced due to the concept implementation issues, it can be used as a foundation for new content that will be updated in the future, allowing for smoother world building. So here you can see what some of the buildings in Tara will look like in Unreal Engine. These are the Tara buildings that have actually been modularized. We are putting a lot of effort into making them efficient while maintaining quality. Can you imagine what the new Tara will look like? We are diligently continuing to accumulate architectural know-how so that we can simultaneously take advantage of the original identity of Mabinogi's background and the new environment called Unreal. In this way, Mabinogi's background is continuously being built and expanded with various attempts and considerations, so we ask for your interest and support. So yeah, this was a really good post. It's nice to see what some of these buildings will look like in Unreal Engine.